This episode contains a lot of discussions about death. Listen at your own discretion. It is Tuesday, the 24th of September, 2024. My name is Pigeon and this is my song of the day. We are once again talking about my favorite band, Elbow. And today we're talking about a song called Empires. It was one of the singles from their 2019 album, Giants of All Sizes. It's the third track on the album. And it's actually the first song I heard from the album because, as I've mentioned before, I have seen Elbow live several times. And earlier in 2019, before they'd released any singles from the album, I saw them at the Forbidden Fruit Festival in Dublin, and they performed Empires. And it didn't stick with me that day in terms of what it actually sounded like because it was a new song, so it just didn't enter into my memory at all because it was, sandwiched between, it was like right in the middle of their concert and it was sandwiched between all these other songs that I knew so well. But I remembered in the moment liking the song and being like, oh, this sounds really good. I'm looking forward to the album. And then as soon as the single came out, I was like, oh, this is the song they played at the gig. I remember why I liked it. And honestly, it's one of my favorite Elbow songs now of all time. They've been kind of a mixed bag in recent years. Flying Dream one it's just kind of like fine, but it's supposed to be. I mean, it was just kind of a simple project they threw together during lockdown. But Giants of All Sizes, I think, has some really good stuff on it. Dexter and Sinister, White Noise, White Heat. Doldrums is also one I really enjoyed from this album, and Weightless, both great songs. Anyway, today we're talking about Empires, as I mentioned. I don't think I need to give too much of a preface to it. I just want to say that the music video is great. I love the music video. It strikes me as the kind of music video that would trigger motion sickness. I don't know if it does, but it just strikes me as that kind of video. So if you have that kind of concern, don't watch it. But I really like it as a kind of representation of the themes. And I'll certainly touch on it when I'm talking about the song. So with that aside, I think we can just go straight to listening to it. So let's listen to it now and then come back in a few minutes and talk about it. I love the vibe of this song because it's not like a real fast-paced song. It's not a sprint. It's just like a like almost kind of a shuffle to the drums, and it just has this really great rhythm to it, and I love the organ going like throughout the whole thing, and you got the guitar going like ding 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 in a really clean tone. I love how the song sounds. That kind of sound on the guitar makes me think of like James Bond, the James Bond chord. It's kind of what that makes me think of. It's called Empires, and the refrain is empires crumble all the time. And Guy Garvey has said how one of the big influences on this album was Brexit, which is fair. Being an English band, obviously Brexit is going to be a big thing that affects your thoughts and your poetry and your art and of course your music. Now, he specifically said that he believes that Brexit will trigger the eventual breakup of the European Union. I don't know about that. I think that's a misguided belief, but that's one of the things specifically he's referencing in this song with the idea that empires crumble all the time. Ironically, Brexit is just making England crumble more and more. It's also just largely about the commonness of death and just kind of how universal it is, because obviously everyone dies, but I mean like specifically deaths that like quote unquote unnatural deaths, not like passing away from old age. I mean like murders, accidents, natural disasters, things like this, and how they just happen everywhere, and it's a shame, and it's part of the human experience, and that's kind of what this song is about. I'm not going to pretend to understand every single line because Guy Garvey sometimes is very straightforward and sometimes just goes into words that rhyme with each other, but we'll get there. I do also want to point out there's a different song on the album which is about the Grenfell Tower fire, and in the music video for Empires it shows all these different things. It shows like an oil spill, it shows forest fires, it shows tornadoes and floods and all these sorts of things, and there's a lot of things of decaying buildings and including some demolitions of buildings. And so I wonder if the video itself is kind of referencing the Grenfell Tower fire as well. If you don't know what the Grenfell Tower fire is, I would say Google it. it's really sad, and it'll just make you so fucking angry at the British government. But then again, what doesn't? Anyway, we're talking about empires. So let's go through the lyrics, shall we? Baby, empires crumble all the time. Pay it no mind, you just happen to witness mine. Don't let all the light fall from your eyes. Come, come, empires crumble all the time. So the phrase empires crumble all the time, again, speaks to it being about politics, being about Brexit, being about the United Kingdom, but it also makes it personal, you just happen to witness mine. So it's kind of talking, like I said, about the normalization of death, and he's saying, like, these things happen, it just happens to be happening to me, right? Don't let all the light fall from your eyes. Come, come, empires crumble all the time. Like, don't let it affect you. And then we get the verse, which is it just keeps going, and I love how this verse sounds, because he's just kind of like barely modulating the tone, just singing like one long run-on sentence, How can a dismally typical Tuesday delivering blues with lead in its canopy scruff me, pin me, and let's make a man of me, turn up the pounding of the hearts all around, and I'm bound to get busy with checking on the living, and I'll wring out their hands and my eyes with the sobbing, but how can a bland, unremarkable, typical Tuesday be Day of the Dead? So, again, this is talking about the commonness of it, and it's saying how, like, these horrific things happen on normal days, How can a bland and remarkable typical Tuesday be Day of the Dead is such a perfect encapsulation of that theme. It's just another day in the life. Why is today the day that so many people have died, right? Like 9/11, for example. I know I'm taking it out of the UK with this, but 9/11, just as an example, is something that everyone knows about and so many people died in. And it happened on September 11th, confusingly, because Americans do their dates wrong. So forever, September 11th will be the day that the Twin Towers were attacked by terrorists. And that's just how that is. But to everyone up until that point, September 11th, up to that point in history, all the September 11th before that were just normal days. And then suddenly, on a Tuesday, actually, I just Googled it, that's wild, on a Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, it suddenly became 9/11, and forever it is that. So yeah, how can a bland and remarkable typical Tuesday be Day of the Dead? There you go. It was just a normal Tuesday, and then hundreds of people died, right? And so that's what this song is kind of pointing out here. It's saying, like, these things happen every day, and it sucks, but it does, right? This is Editor Pidge pitching in here with something I can't believe I forgot to say when I was recording this episode. The other thing that the line, how can a bland, unremarkable, typical Tuesday be Day of the Dead, reminded me of is Street Fighter, the movie. Famously, there's this scene where Chun-Li confronts M. Bison about how he, like, destroyed her village and killed her family and everyone she knew. And, since then she has sought revenge. And M. Bison doesn't remember it. And he says, for you, the day that M. Bison graced your village with his presence was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday. Just had to point that out because that's what this makes me think of as well. It's the same thing of, like, what's important for someone might not have the same amount of importance for someone else, even if they were there, For him, it was just another village. For her, it was her entire life. Anyway, to go back to the verse, delivering blues with lead in its canopy. Blues, I assume being like, the blues, being sad, being depressed. With lead in its canopy, I mean, I associate lead with coffins, but also bullets, so it could mean a lot of things. Scruff me, pin me, and let's make a man of me. I don't know what the fuck that one's supposed to mean. Turn up the pounding of the hearts all around. I don't know if that's about, like, people being scared, or it's about people outpouring sympathy, outpouring love, And I'm bound to get busy with checking on the living, and I'll wring out their hands on my eyes with the sobbing. So, rescue efforts, making sure people are still alive, and making sure the people who are, like, the relatives of people who have died are okay, and then how can a bland and remarkable typical Tuesday be Day of the Dead. The rest of the song is just repeating those lines. It's just those two sections repeated several times. I do love the way it goes. The music drops out, and then there's like a clap sound. It's not quite a clap, it's something else. It sounds like something being dropped on the ground, but it's like, be Day of the Dead, baby. I love that so much. I've talked before about how much I love a stop start, and that's a perfect stop start. I love it because you got the stop and then the clap and then great. And then the way it ends on just the organ, the do 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 do. Love that. Absolutely love that. I don't think I have much else to say. I do enjoy that because of that Day of the Deadline. The single art has a bunch of, like, I think I've heard them called sugar skulls. The the kind of Day of the Dead skull thing. But they look like little charms or something. Anyway, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Tell other people about this show. Thank you so much for listening. And I will talk to you tomorrow.
Break it down.
Who put elbow back on the podcast again? Me! Oh, what's that song called? All of this stuff in our veins is the same. Are you quake awake?